Good morning, gentlemen. Welcome. You have some... Great. We like handouts. Okay. Thank you. Well, between you've got 20 minutes. Hopefully we perhaps don't go that long, but the floor is yours.
Morning to Chairman and Councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to you today. My name's Stu Hutchings and I'm the Acting Chief Executive for the Animal Health Board, and I'm also their Technical Manager. So I'd like to introduce the team, all of which I'm sure you're aware of. Dennis Mitchell, who's the TB-Free Committee Chairman for the region, and Owen Harris, who I'm sure needs no introduction to you, sharp though he's looking in his tie. So today, this submission, I think, is a pretty big hallmark for our relationship between the Animal Health Board and the Regional Council, because it forms the start of a transition out from what's been a contracted management role for the wildlife control in the region to one of coming in-house. And so I think based on that, I'd like to take the opportunity to provide a number of thanks around that to you all, specifically as the Council, for your ongoing support through regional share and also just generalised support for our program, which has allowed us to make some really significant progress in our fight against TB in this region and throughout New Zealand. So that's been very significant for us, and we've certainly enjoyed that support. And secondly, I'd like to propose thanks to Owen specifically for his role that he's had for the quality and passion that he's brought to our program. And I guess even on a personal level for me, the amount of support that he's shown me over the years and taken what was a bit of greenhorn fellow at the beginning through and taught me a huge amount, and especially around stakeholder engagement and around the area. So I think his huge knowledge base and enthusiasm has certainly been appreciated by all of us at the Animal Health Board. So thank you. So we've given you some maps here in your packs, and that's really to give you a bit of an outline of our program for this year. So I just thought I'd quickly run through those that you've got in front of you. So the first map there shows the whole program for the region, and it's approximately half the entire Hawke's Bay region, about 700,000 hectares. And you can see the three colours that are shown on that map, and basically the green area is that which we've flagged for total eradication from TB from wildlife by 2026, as it's aligning with our national strategy. The orange areas that circle and buffer up against that are in fact what they sound like. They're a buffer area. So in those we're actually trying to provide sufficient intensity of control of our wildlife to prevent the potential leakage of TB from wildlife out of the brown areas, which we're classing as what we call eye-herd suppression. And by eye-herd suppression we mean that we do sufficient control in those areas to keep the possum numbers as low as we can, to try and stop the infected herd numbers getting any higher than they need to be, so hence the eye-herd suppression term. So that kind of reflects the local input that we have to our national strategy. That strategy is a 15-year strategy, and we're progressing through. We're just coming to the end of the second year of it, and to date nationwide we've eradicated or declared free around 480,000 hectares of New Zealand, which is moving towards our target of at least 2.5 million hectares across the whole country. So a pretty bold approach. If you move to the second map, you'll see that it covers off the areas that we're proposing in the 2013-14 program for ground control. So there's a total there of about 321,000 hectares being proposed for ground control in the next year. So without going into any detail, I'll just keep moving through the maps, and then if we have any questions about specifics, I'll either deal with them or Owen if it comes to be a more technical type question. The next map is showing the areas that we have under survey, independent surveys. We primarily use pigs and deer as our survey species, and what we did, possums and eat them, so if there's TB present, then the pigs will be the ones that indicate that that's happening. So we've got a significant area under that going on this in the 13-14 year as well. The final map is showing that area that we have under aerial control for the 13-14 year, so just 2 specific aerial projects this time. One of them is in the eye herd suppression area, and one of them is in the eradication area, and each is around 11,500 hectares in size. So that concludes the component of which I wish to address the group. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll pass on to Dennis unless anybody has any specific questions for me.
Well, I have a comment and a question. The first comment is just a very small one, to a note of congratulations to Mr. Harris in the Guavas aerial control. As you're probably all well aware, there's quite a drought still ensuing down there in the foothills, and an accommodation and a delay in the aerial application until August has been welcomed and very well received by the farmer community down there that are grazing that forest at the moment. So I congratulate you and commend you on your foresight. It was some cockies down there with their backs against the wall, and actually that meant a heck of a lot, and it's great for the relationship going forward. But my question to you, Mr. Hutchings, if I can find it. Where is the infected herd at the moment? I'm looking at the first map. Is it within the brown, the orange, or the green?
We had one, Mr. Chairman, we had one infected herd, and that was the down at Otani.
Right. Yeah, I know that
and
issue.
That was brought in.
Yes, it was, and now it's fixed, isn't it? Yeah. Yes, right. Okay.
And yes, I believe he's had one clear test, might have even had, or just ready to have a second clear
sure.
test, which
Okay.
will bring us back to
Thank you.
TB-free again.
And another quick question. I'm sure there's others. I don't want to. The vector operations. No. The here it is. The surveys. Are you also conducting? I know in Whitehall you're conducting chew cards, etc. Is that ongoing? As far as
chew cards are very much part of the Animal Health Board program now.
Yeah.
A cheaper way. The reason being is it's just.
Can you just explain to everyone how they work?
These chew cards are put out there. If we're conducting a survey to see possum densities in an area, and now that we've got our possum numbers down to extremely low levels, the best way you can quite often put traps out there, and traps generally don't start working until about 3 nights out. In many cases, it can be 3 to 7 nights before you start getting possums in your traps. What we've found with chew cards, these are a little wee square of polystyrene core flute, and down one edge or 2 edges of them, we put peanut butter is forced into the core flute, and these are tacked to trees at a certain height and working to certain rules, and they're put out there, and the possums come along and see these straight away. They see this white card there, which is of an interest to them at any rate. But having the bait there, they scarper up the tree and they have a chew on the bait, and they just leave teeth indentation marks on the core flute because they absolutely try and suck that peanut butter out of the core flute. And our staff can put those out tonight. They walk around today, they might put several hundred out today, and then they come back in 7 days' time. And that's the difference between using trapping as a method to identify what's in the area. They've got to come back every day to make certain those traps haven't caught something. So this is in once, put the cards out, or however many days is required, and then back in 7 days and take those cards out. Read the cards, everything's GPSed, and where possum sign has been noted, and then the men are sent back in to where that sign has been noted, and they track that area. So that's a far quicker and more efficient way to work in the area. That's the reason why we're using chew cards.
Mr. Chairman, the other reason around it is because when you get to really low possum density, you've just got clusters left often, and those clusters are the ones that can maintain disease. And so to save that huge effort of trapping over a wide one, you're trying to find where those residual clusters are, and this is a very effective method of doing that.
The farmers don't chew them. questions. Councillor Rose.
Yeah, just a couple of questions. Mr Hutchings, if you could give us an indication of how Hawke's Bay rates nationally, whether we're sort of right up the top of the tree or halfway down. And secondly, perhaps one of the other panel members may like to answer, is there any evidence of pigs being transported into the area? You've done your pig survey, but I know there was concern expressed some time ago that there were pigs being mobilised into the area for farming purposes or for hunting purposes. And I wonder if you could just comment on where we're at today with that problem.
So the second part of the question I'll leave for Owen to answer, if he may have that information. In terms of where Hawke's Bay sits in the national perspective, from a enthusiasm and cooperation point of view, it sits right up there. We certainly have enjoyed a very strong relationship. In terms of the area under control, you'll see there's 700,000 hectares, and around a third of that is aiming towards eradication. The whole equation nationwide is obviously around a funding formula, and if we had all of the funds that we needed, we would be eradicating from all of the areas within all of the country where we believe possums to be infected, the vector risk areas as we call them, which is about 10 million hectares of New Zealand. However, with the funding we have available, we target those that we can believe can be eradicated, and that's, as I say, a minimum of 2.5. We are setting a target of just over 3 million across the whole country.